Hello and welcome to another Giant Slayer TFT Top 5 Countdown video. Today I'll be doing a follow-up to the first Top 5 compositions video now that the meta has had time to settle. There have been quite a few shifts in the meta, especially since the hotfix that nerfed Nami, Varus, and Sylas. The question is, how close were we originally to where the meta is now? The initial top 5 we had was Astral Mage, Varus, Dragons, Xayah, and Warrior Reroll. We'll see if any of those compositions made it back into the top 5 as we further explore where the meta has settled for the first patch of Set 7. With all that preamble out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the number 5 composition, Mages. Mages have remained a top composition within the meta, but are definitely different from how they were originally. Nami 3 is still playable, but far less common of an opener for Mages. For the most part, the common path to a mage board is Sylas, Trainers, and Rise. Despite the nerf, Sylas is still a must-have frontliner as his shield buys a lot of time, much like Vex from Set 6. Trainers are the bread and butter early game when playing mage because having an extra unit on the board, Namzi, helps a lot in either winning rounds or taking good losses. Plus, Namzi takes time to scale, so having trainers right away will help with that. Heimerdinger is also an unsung hero for any mage composition because his ability often stuns the enemy carry, and boy is it obnoxious to play against. But having that stun can be crucial at stalling a fight out. Stalling for what, you may ask? Rise. Rise is the main carry for mages, though things like Mage Aurelion Soul are still viable. As long as you buy Rise enough time, he'll eventually scale enough to one-shot enemy units. Which brings us back to the best way to play mages, CC and shields. Sylas should cover the shield front line, but Idas can also be quite helpful too, since they're one of the best frontliners. But CC is where your board wants to eventually go towards champions like Ornn, Heimerdinger, Zoe, Bard, or really any CC you can put onto your board. Bard is one of the best non-mages since he synergizes with Rise thanks to the guild trait. The core composition is often 5 mages plus frontline and Bard. Heimerdinger, Rise, Nami, Sylas, and Zoe are definitely the preferred 5 to give you the best mix of damage, CC, and utility. From there, Lulu is a good addition to add extra utility while also providing trainer. And of course, in the late game, Bard is a must-have. Overall, mages are in a healthier place after the Nami nerfs because they have a strong mid-game, scale 1 to the late game, but aren't unbeatable. Let's move on to the number 4 composition, Dragons. Dragons is another returning composition from our first top 5, though unlike mages, it's essentially unchanged. The reason for that is the idea behind this composition is still the same. Once you find either the Dragon Horde or Dragon Alliance augment, you can pivot into a mostly dragon board. That can be 2, 3, or even 4 dragons, but regardless of how many you play, you can only do so with one of those 2 augments. We will say that it can be a bit harder to pull off this board now that players have had more time to play against dragons, so it's not like you're guaranteed to win. That said, if you hit either augment on 3-2 or 4-2, you can easily pivot into win streaking off of the free dragon it provides. Then you can scale to level 8, find additional dragons, and you're good to go until the top 4. Idas is a must-have for this composition as they are by far the best frontliner. The Shimmer Scale item can also be helpful either dealing damage, surviving, or just making extra gold. Siphen and Deja are the mid-game dragon carries. Deja is slightly more reliable damage, though Siphen lets you play Thresh to have 4 Whispers and 2 Guardians. Shiou is the least useful of the 4 cost dragons, but the Jade statue healing and attack speed is definitely useful, especially for high health units like dragons. Once level late, you can transition into the late game dragons. Aoshin is by far the best for this as Aurelion Soul is a bit too slow in fights. Shyvana also adds extra CC and does decent damage while also providing Rage Wing, meaning a pivot into Xayah is possible. All in all, this is an easy composition to play because once you find Dragon Horde or Dragon Alliance, all you have to do is play some dragons and build a board around what you hit. Nice and easy and great for top 4ing with the potential to win if you hit upgraded 10 cost dragons in the late game. Up next, we have Olaf Warrior coming in at number 3. This composition is similar to the one we had originally, Warrior Reroll, except we're dropping the Yone and going all in on Olaf. Olaf is one of the strongest non-Xayah carries in the meta right now. There's a few reasons for this, such as his scaling, synergies, and augments, but the real reason is his versatility. Olaf can be played in a number of different ways. Assassin Olaf, Bruiser Olaf, Warrior Scale Scorn Olaf are all viable paths to take with Olaf as your primary carry. The latter 2 variations are similar, though the boards are different. The overarching theme for all 3 variants, besides Olaf, is the win condition is hitting Olaf 3. Assassin Olaf is pretty simple to figure out as it requires hitting an Assassin emblem to give to Olaf. From there, you can play a mixture of Bruisers, Assassins, Warriors, and Scale Scorn, basically whatever you hit out of those synergies. The strength of this variant is giving Olaf immediate access to the backline, so no more worrying about being stuck on a tanky frontliner. Bruiser Olaf drops Scale Scorn and adds a bunch of bruisers to make him tankier, but also provides Whispers. Siphon and Silas are key here, and the great thing about this version is they reduce the armor for any unit they deal damage to. So all you have to do is position Olaf nearby either champion so he's smacking away at the weakened enemy unit, and boom, they die super quick. And then there's Warrior Scale Scorn, which is essentially just 4 of each synergy to pile on as many attack increasing stats that you can for Olaf. It's the easiest to play because it doesn't take any specific augments or high cost champions to play, but it does scale poorly if you're not hitting Olaf 3, Diana 3, and Yasuo 2. Those are the ways to play Olaf, but that's not the end of the road just yet. Items are extremely important for Olaf. Assassin Olaf doesn't have too many requirements other than the emblem and Quicksilver, but regular Olaf absolutely needs RFC. RFC means Olaf won't get stuck on a champion like Shen, and it also makes it easier for him to maneuver in a fight. Quicksilver is also essential for all Olaf variants. The last item can be whatever you want, though Runins is common. As for augments, anything that gives combat stats to Olaf is amazing. Best Friends, Preparation, Stand United, Combat Training, and Celestial Blessing are just a few generic augments to consider. For more specific augments, there's Tiamat, Shrug It Off, Personal Training, Titanic Strength, and Verdant Veil. Ascension is also quite good since most fights in this set tend to be on the slower side. Olaf is a reliable way to top 4 in the current meta, especially if you find him in Stage 1 or early in Stage 2. Throw him in the front so he dies and stack up those glorious deaths while building your economy with a loss streak. Then you can just level and roll at level 7, hit your upgrades, and coast on into a top 4. As we said, the win condition for any Olaf variant is Olaf 3, which can be done at level 7 or later levels depending on your board state. Speaking of reroll boards, our number 2 composition is none other than Sett Reroll. We thought we escaped the reroll boards being strong with the Astral nerfs, but alas, Sett has proven us wrong. Sett Reroll utilizes Sett 3 as the primary carry with Ragewing and Dragonmancers as the synergies. It's easy to play and relatively easy to force, making it an ideal composition to spam for gaining LP. The reason this composition does well is, of course, Sett. Sett scales insanely well with attack speed, and guess what? Ragewing gives a ton of attack speed. Mix that with Rageblade, and by the end of the fight, Sett will hit the attack speed cap and go sicko mode. It's not unbeatable, but it's certainly one of the easiest to pilot boards right now, as all you need to do is reroll at level 5 for Sett 3 and then chill into the late game. Augments are also important, as without good combat augments, Sett will struggle as the game goes on. By the way, this is by far the best augment since it's a ridiculous attack speed booster for low-cost units. Any augment that increases attack speed, adds a descaling, or defensive stats will do well on Sett. For a more specific augment, Scorch is amazing on Sett since it adds true damage to his attacks. Honestly, that's really it for Sett Reroll. Buy all the sets and Sennas, either slow roll or hyper roll at level 5 to hit Sett 3, and then add in Ragewing units until the end of the game. Just be sure to scout before hard committing in case multiple players are contesting, as the condition to top 4ing is Sett 3. Without him, why even play this board? And with that, we've reached our number 1 composition, Xayah. We also had Xayah in our first top 5, but we definitely didn't know how good she'd end up being once Astral boards were less common. Xayah is the 4-cost carry of the set, and currently no other unit comes close to her damage output. She's relatively safe, does decent single target, and has AoE that scales well with both of her synergies. The great thing about Xayah is that she isn't tied to just one composition. As long as you have both Ragewing and Swift Shot active, you can play her with whatever additional units you want. Shimmer Scale is particularly good with Xayah, as Idis buys a lot of time in the front line, and several Shimmer Scale items are good on Xayah, such as Draven's Axe. Another way to play Xayah is with 6 Ragewing. That variant has the added benefit of pivoting into Shyvana later, which adds extra late game scaling. Point is, Xayah seems to do no wrong in the current meta. Multiple players will contest you for her, so be aware of that. The conditions to top 4ing with Xayah are Xayah 2 with a good front line. Win conditions are essentially the same, though. If you want a guaranteed win, then Xayah 3 is definitely it. Overall, Xayah is the best non-reroll board in the meta right now. Alright folks, that does it for our follow-up top 5 compositions for patch 12.11. But before we go, we do have a few honorable mentions to talk about. Up first are a few of the reroll compositions in the meta that aren't set. The 2 most popular are Ezreal Guardians and Nidalee. Both of these compositions can do well, but they struggle with consistency. The goal is to reroll on 5 and hit Ezreal 3, Leona 3, and Taric 3, while the Nidalee board only requires Nidalee 3. As long as you hit early enough, it should be possible to top 4, but again, the problem with these boards compared to Sett is consistency. Keep in mind as well, neither of them will scale well into the late game, so only force them when you have a good opener and are okay finishing in 4th or 3rd. Moving on, we have Varus Bruiser returning, though much weaker than before the hotfix patch. The plan is the same with Varus: play Astral, roll on 7, and hit Varus 3. It's still super easy to 3-star Varus, but after the nerfs, he can be difficult to win with and is much weaker before you 3-star him. But it is an easy to play composition, so if you have a good Astral opener, go for it. Our final honorable mention is Whispers. This has also been a middle-of-the-road composition in terms of strength, as it's definitely able to top 4 consistently, but can struggle depending on the lobby. Syfen and Elise are a strong duo, with Bruiser providing solid frontline. Positioning and items are essential for this board, as is Syfen too, which makes it slightly difficult to play in the mid-game. Overall, this is a good off-meta composition to pivot into if you're just looking to top 4. That's all for today, folks. There are plenty of other compositions in the meta like Deja Mirage, some assassin boards, and things like late-game legendary boards focused on Yasuo or Aoshin. There's even a newer composition floating around the surface with Dragonmancer Nunu as the carry. Point is, the meta is not just the compositions we listed today, and even though we think those top 5 are the strongest, that doesn't mean you can't play other boards and do well. Experiment and keep an eye out for new compositions to play because Dragonlands is still brand new and nothing is figured out just yet. Let us know in the comment section below what your top 5 compositions are now that the meta has settled a bit and which of those is your favorite. Remember to check out the GiantSlayer TFT socials in the description below to keep up to date with any news, shows, and other content. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future GiantSlayer TFT videos.